calm, solemn Monday afternoon, folks and friends. Yours truly, Denise Osorio here, and this is PTV News Now. Starting off our afternoon stories, speed kills, especially in well-known speed traps like along stretches of Commonwealth Avenue, where motorists love to step on the gas and hit speeds in excess of 80 kilometers per hour, and fender benders that turn lethal are commonplace. Much like yesterday's auto mishap involving a sedan, a fully loaded public utility jeepney, and a motorcycle carrying 2 passengers who died instantaneously after inadvertently getting hit by a speeding jeep that eventually flipped over. As a result of this latest deadly road fender bender along Commonwealth Avenue, dubbed by motorists as the Killer Highway, former MMDA Chair and sitting Senator Francis Tolentino is pushing for a stricter enforcement of the 60 km/h speed limit rule he conceived 14 years ago on all major highways and roadways. The senator expressed sadness and anger over the latest deadly crash along Commonwealth Avenue over the weekend and stressed that the 60 km/h speed limit he introduced nearly 14 years ago that was ordained as a traffic rule should be strictly observed by motorists and enforced by traffic enforcers. After arriving yesterday from its disaster response mission in the aftermath or fallout of the 7.7 killer quake that hit Myanmar on March 28, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. hailed the team for its courageous and exemplary efforts amidst challenging circumstances. So said Palace Press Officer and PCO Undersecretary Claire Castro in a presser earlier today, relaying the President's message of gratitude and commendation on country's humanitarian mission for completing the task they set out to do. The humanitarian mission returned to the country yesterday after a fortnight of disaster response assistance in relief and recovery efforts. The Philippine Interagency Humanitarian Contingent, or PIAHC, dispatched to Myanmar was an 89-man team constituting of personnel from the Office of Civil Defense, Philippine Army, Philippine Air Force, DOH, MMDA, Bureau of Fire Protection, and DENR, amongst others. Its deployment was part of the One ASEAN, One Response initiative, conceived to speed up and strengthen disaster response and solidarity. An estimated 1,600 people have died thus far in the quake in Myanmar, among them 2 Filipinos. The latest anti-poaching deterrent featuring embedding rhino horns with radioactive pellets is under a pilot study in South Africa. VOA's Maryse de Klerk filed this report from the UNESCO Waterbird Biosphere Reserve.
Scientists are testing a novel technique to deter poachers targeting endangered rhinos for their prized horns. As part of a pilot study in South Africa, researchers have injected small radioactive pellets into the horns of live rhinos. The goal is to make the horns radioactive so there is less demand for them on the black market. Maryse de Klerk reports from the UNESCO Waterbird Biosphere Reserve in South Africa.
3/4 is one of 20 rhinoceros in a pilot study in which radioactive pellets were injected into their horns. This 2.5 metric ton bull has received the highest dose in the study by the Conservation Research Initiative, the Rhisotope Project. The goal is to make rhino horns radioactive to decrease the demand for them on the black market and to discourage rhino poachers who are trying to profit. Researchers are testing the rhino's blood to make sure the animals are not being harmed.
We've all been looking and trying to find the silver bullet to stop rhino poaching, and I think this could just be what we need to stop poaching in its tracks. It is a brilliant idea.
James Larkin, who leads the internationally funded program, researched the radiation dose being used in the study.
Spent 2.5 years developing computer models of the animals and carrying out the tests and comparing these with results from the International Commission on Radiation Protection. And our results compare extraordinarily favourably.
Rhinos in Africa have long been targeted by poaching syndicates that feed the black market demand for rhino horns in Asia, pushing the world's 5 rhinoceros species toward extinction. Larkin says if finally approved, the technology would be more cost-effective than the current strategy of discouraging poaching by dehorning rhinos every 2 years. This is because rhino horns grow continuously. For Van Deventer, the rhino poaching situation is dire, so he's eager for the project results. Scientists hope blood tests will confirm that the animals are still healthy. Test results are expected in about 2 months. If funding permits, the technology could be offered to rhino owners by the end of this year. Marise de Klerk, VOA News, Waterberg, South Africa.
And we've come to the end of our show this afternoon. Join us again later for another set of stories for the evening edition. Make it a habit to always tune in to this station for news you can count on, news you can trust. This is Denise Osorio, and thank you for watching PTV News Now.